Hello, this video will be a review of Season 4, episodes 18 through 21 of Young Justice, so there will be spoilers. Okay, I liked the arc decently well enough. There were parts that I really enjoyed and parts that I found kind of lacking, which is how I feel about all the other arcs. Each one had things that I liked and didn't like. Now with this one, it's Rocket's arc, and my main issue with it is that it just didn't focus that much on Rocket. I feel like we didn't learn that much about her as a character. I mean, we did kind of learn some stuff with the interactions with her son and such, but we didn't get anything at all about her backstory. Now in the comics, that is Milestone Comics, Rocket, real name Raquel Irving, actually becomes a hero by talking a guy named Augustus Freeman into becoming a hero first, this being Icon. They actually meet when Raquel broke into his house and tried to rob him. Then she saw that he had superpowers and thought he would make a great hero, and she demanded to be his sidekick, and she even designed their costumes. But none of this is mentioned in Young Justice, so there is the possibility that this isn't even her backstory in the show. Still, I would have liked to have seen some backstory for her, whether it's the same as in the comics or not. In the other arcs, we did get to learn new things about the focus characters, or at least saw some of their backstory. With the first arc, we got to learn more about McGann's relationship with her family, and that really added to her character. Way back in season 1, she mentioned that she always wanted an Earth sister and implied that she didn't get along with her sisters on Mars. And in her arc, we got to meet one of those sisters, and their interactions with each other really added a layer to McGann's character. In Artemis's arc, we see great interactions with her sister, Jade, and even flashbacks that add some context to some of their interactions in season 1. In Calder's arc, there was an episode where he talks to his parents about the past, and we learn more about his backstory, which explains his personality pretty well. Zatanna's arc is a little lacking in this area, the same with Rocket's. We did get some flashbacks of her childhood, but that was more from her father's perspective, not her own. But it did still give us insight into her character a little bit. Now, I do think Zatanna's arc suffers from not focusing on her as much as it focuses on Clarion and Vandal Savage. I feel like Rocket's arc suffers similarly by focusing a little too much on the Zod family. I did like the parts in episode 19 when Lord Zod was explaining his backstory, and it was intercut with Saturn Girl and Chameleon Boy telling the same story but from their perspectives. Like, from Lore's point of view, he is in the right for wanting to rescue his parents, while the Legion thought he was evil for that because his parents are criminals. It was really cool to see different viewpoints of the same events. I thought it was an interesting way of handling a lot of exposition. But we got way more of Lord Zod's backstory than we did of Rocket's backstory. Now, I did really like Lord Zod, to be honest. I didn't really care for General Zod, but I never really like him in any adaptation. He's just not a character that I enjoy. Lord Zod's determination to get his parents out of the Phantom Zone was kind of sweet, though. Yeah, I know they're villains and have done awful things, but still, it was sweet. Even if it is kind of far removed from the comics, Lore in the comics actually fights against his parents and gets raised by Superman and Lois as a Kent. Maybe that could still happen in Young Justice. Time travel is possible, so maybe Superman could travel in time and take baby Lore away. Although that would be kidnapping, so maybe not. Anyway, I found the song they sang in the Phantom Zone, kind of cringy, and I kind of wish that had been left out. I know that's a small thing, but when they started singing, I was like, really? Y'all are doing this? I get that it's supposed to be brainwashing Connor into being loyal to Zod, but still. I felt like it lasted too long. I know it wasn't very long, but I feel like a couple of verses could have been cut, and that little extra time could have been given to, I don't know, Rocket. I just feel like she didn't get enough screen time for it being her arc. Now, a big point of contention in the show's fandom is how she handled her son Amistad's autism, and then how her feelings about that were mirrored to her feelings about Orion. Now, I don't have autism or claustrophobia, so I can't really speak on how accurately either of those were portrayed. I've seen people talking and saying that Amistad was written relatively accurately as an autistic character, and I've seen people say that it actually wasn't great representation. I think it's important to note that people with autism are not a monolith, and each person is different. I saw a lot of people saying that him eating the cookie in a specific way, and then being sensitive to strong smells like that woman's perfume, and not liking disruptions in his routine with the subway train going to a different station than usual. I saw people saying that many autistic people can relate to that. Some were more upset about how Raquel handled Amistad over how Amistad was portrayed. I see people saying that it was accurate that parents of autistic children would be frustrated, and I saw people say that Rocket shouldn't have been so dismissive of Amistad's needs. I personally didn't like that scene at the beginning of episode 18 where she's pretending to look for his wool hat. Like, she looks under the couch and stuff and keeps saying no hat over and over, which felt condescending. I get it was to show her frustration and stress, but I still kind of wish that part was left out. Even Amistad's facial expression during that scene showed that it was upsetting him. But you can argue that this is just a character flaw of Raquel, and that all good characters should have some type of flaw, which is fair. Characters should have flaws, even heroes. But still, I can understand why many fans didn't like this aspect of her character, or how the show handled it. This sort of plays into her judgment of Orion as well. So I understand her calling him a monster because he becomes unstable and hits those two larvae children. I get that, and I don't blame her for having apprehensions about negotiating peace with him. The problem that I have with her judgment of Orion is how she felt about him after learning his biological father is Darkseid. I mean, she has several teammates who have evil relatives. She's friends with Artemis, isn't she? And Artemis's dad is a villain, and Raquel never seemed to judge her for that. Granted, Sportsmaster isn't quite on the level of evil as Darkseid, but you get my point. It just felt kind of out of character for her to judge someone for having an evil family member. Though I will say it was good that she acknowledged that they got off on the wrong foot and apologized. It was at the beginning of episode 20, and while it wasn't actually Orion but Ma'ala Falak, it was good that she realized they needed to make amends. She didn't know it wasn't actually Orion, of course, but it was still a nice gesture that showed Rocket's maturity. And okay, yeah, Orion could be a jerk and standoffish, but really the only bad thing he did was hit those two larvae. And yeah, that was bad. He shouldn't have done that. But still, I feel like Rocket was a little too judgmental of him. Like, when she got mad at him during the meeting for saying their off-topic conversation was of little importance. He was definitely a jerk in the way that he worded it, but he was kind of right. Them sidetracking the peace negotiation with talks of romance and birthdays was kind of unprofessional. I think Orion was right to call them out for that. I get Bear wanting to extend his condolences about Superboy's death, but the conversation should have ended there. The only really important thing we got from that off-topic conversation was that Forager was thinking of staying on New Genesis. But to be honest, I don't really care about that much. Okay, a little bit of a tangent. I had some issues with season 3. And one of those issues was that I just didn't care that much about the new characters. I didn't care at all about Brienne or Helga or Forager. I just didn't care about them. The only new character that I even kind of cared about was Halo. And speaking of them, I don't like that the writers had Rocket use the wrong pronouns for Halo. Okay, I know Violet said that they don't mind she, her pronouns, but they did very clearly state that they preferred they, them pronouns. Now, they only said this to Harper Row, but I would have assumed that they would tell the whole team. I can understand the New Genesis gods not knowing and calling Halo she by mistake, but I feel like Rocket should have referred to them with, them. But I'm going to blame the writers for this. Going back to Forager, though, since I didn't care that much about him in Season 3, I didn't really care about the romance either. It was kind of cute. Them reading Shakespeare made me think of Jason Spizak's YouTube videos of Wally reading the classics, which really did warm my heart a little bit. I'll link one of those videos down below. For context, Jason Spizak is the voice actor for Forager and Wally West, so I like the little reference to him as Wally quoting Shakespeare. He voices another character, doesn't he? Oh, Razor! He also voices Razor. 3 characters in one show. That's something else that happens. Boy, do I have some feelings about Razor. I loved seeing him again. Was not expecting it in the slightest. So, Razor is a character who had only ever appeared in Green Lantern, the animated series. I don't think he's ever even been in the comics. Now, this was a show that aired when Young Justice Seasons 1 and 2 were airing on Cartoon Network, like 10 years ago, literally a decade ago. And they were both canceled at the same time, which is a real shame because Green Lantern the Animated Series was actually a really good show. I'm not even a big fan of Green Lantern. Like, I don't hate the Green Lanterns or anything, they're just kind of meh to me, but I did really enjoy that show. And now one of its main characters has appeared in Young Justice. Could this mean a revival for Green Lantern? Maybe. I could only hope. It deserves a season 2. Speaking of Green Lanterns, it was sad that Tomar Ray died. And it was extra sad that he was killed by a Kryptonian, considering he tried to save Krypton. I do love some irony. But he shouldn't feel guilty about not saving Krypton, because really, what could he have done to stop his son from dying? Oh, and it was interesting to learn that he knew Superman's biological father and uncle. So we have confirmation that Zor-El existed on Earth-16. So maybe his daughter Kara does too. It would be cool to see Supergirl show up at some point. My only issue with that would be that there are already so many characters in Young Justice. It felt crowded back in Season 2, and it's only gotten worse. I think that's one of the reasons why some of the arcs and storylines didn't follow their focus character all that much, because there are too many characters vying for lines and screen time. Maybe if there were less characters, we could have gotten to see more of Rocket. I hope she's featured strongly in the next arc, which I know won't be Nightwing's, but that's set up to be about finding Connor. And Rocket can definitely help with that, since she now has some key knowledge about the Phantom Zone projector getting destroyed and all. She did see Bioship's lasers destroy the projector, even if she didn't know what it was at the time. So maybe we'll see a lot of her in the next arc. I'm looking forward to it. That's most of my opinions. Let me know what your thoughts were. Did you love this arc? Hate it? Feel indifferent to it? Should there have been more Rocket? Do you think they handled Amistad's autism well, or not? Let me know. I'm always interested in what other people thought. Bye!